Morning. Are you coming in then?
Good morning, and what a show we've got lined up for you today. Today's a special one. England Rugby World Cup winner and MasterChef champion Phil Vickery will be here. He'll be joining us at the house all morning. Mr. Tony Singh will be inviting us to his kitchen as well. He'll be rustling up his trademark chili pig pie. And don't miss this week's Little Masterclass, where we're giving you a step-by-step guide to making the perfect Swiss roll. Now, if you're going out for lunch in Marlow today, good luck, because all the chefs are sitting right here in my kitchen. It's the brilliant Atul, Kochhar and Tom Kerridge. Thank you. Welcome to the house. Now, you guys are cooking for us today. What are you going to be doing, Atul? What are you going to be doing first?
I'm cooking a great lamb dish, and it's from my hometown in Bihar, and it's called ahuna gosht. So it's a beautiful lamb curry.
Well, Ralph seems to be liking it as well. Ralph's barking in the background in the garden. Tom, you're cooking lamb as well. So.
I'm going to be cooking a beautiful lamb dish.
Different cut of meat, though.
Yeah, different cut of meat, also spiced, but it's definitely not from my hometown.
Right.
So it's kind of like North African, Eastern Mediterranean influence, spiced lamb dish, beautiful flavours, served with couscous, really nice and easy.
Sounds pretty good as well. Talking that nice and easy, I'm going to start off with a recipe for scones, or you like to call it?
It's a scone, mate. Honestly, it's a scone.
It's a scone. All right, OK, so we're going to call it scone or scone, and I'm going to do this recipe for this. This is nice and simple, really. So start off with some plain flour. We've got some butter. You can serve this, you can do this from room temperature. If you're going to do this by hand as well, the best way is you keep everything cold. And a lot of people will actually tell you to put... when I worked in America, even for apple pie, to get the pastry really, really short, they put the flour in the freezer to make it really, really cold. I mean, you must have done that.
Yeah, I've seen it done a number of times.
Cold butter, cold flour, and then some sugar, a little bit of baking powder and some milk and a pinch of salt. But we're going to use one of these machines. So if you are going to do this with a machine, I think the key to this, with a little bit of salt, is to really use this with caution. What you don't want to be doing is over-mixing it, because I think if you over-mix it, particularly when you rub in the butter, which this is, that's when your scones end up being tough and they start to sort of, well, they're not very nice. You want them nice and light. And for that, we're going to add a little bit of baking powder in there, and then just start this machine off nice and gently using the paddle, and almost really, really gently. And I'm going to finish off the rest of it by hand. If you're doing this at home, you haven't got a machine, rub it with the tips of your fingers. My granny used to make the best scones. And it was always Granny's always made the best pastry, because they never had machines like this, and it was always used to they had a feel of it with it, and that's not overworking the gluten in the flour. It's as simple as that. So once you get to this stage, I'm going to turn it off, and then I'm going to finish off the rest of it by hand, really. So what you want is the butter just to dissolve in there, and the best way to do that is take your fingertips now and then rub the rest of it in like that, and then we're going to add the milk. And then I'm going to cut them all out, and we're going to serve them with some of this amazing jam. Now, when we started off in the middle of as COVID sort of hit, we started off introducing the general public out there all about all the amazing suppliers we have throughout the length and breadth of this country. And I know, you're a big supporter, as well as you, Tom, of all the amazing producers is all over the place. But there are little hint gems that none of you have known yet. And we're about to introduce you to one of them now. So we're about to go to Gloucestershire to speak to a chef-turned-jam maker, Sarah Churchill, from the Artisan Kitchen. There she is, ready. So welcome to the show, Sarah.
Hello.
Now, first of all, before we get on to the jam, tell us about your career then, because you had a quite fascinating career as a chef. I mean, we worked with some amazing chefs, amazing places, including, the Square, Phil Howard, and places like that. So how did you always wanted to be a chef? That's where it all started?
I think I fell into it, really. Sort of went to Westminster College, straight out into work. I worked at Lescargo in the early years, Mirabelle, and then eventually worked with Phil Howard. Just had such a fantastic time there.
Now, it's interesting, you just throw away those names of where you worked in London. Tom was like, whoa, they are.
I mean,
is still iconic places in London.
Incredible history, like, without those sort of restaurants, without those places, the British food scene wouldn't be where it is. You're a part of that amazing food history that we've got in the UK.
Yeah, I loved every minute of it. They certainly were early years. This is like 20 years ago. I worked in a lot of those restaurants, but it was fantastic, hard work, but great grounding, and you know, just the love of food and seasonal ingredients comes from working with some of these amazing chefs as well.
Well, those people who don't know, you mentioned escargot and places like that. That was I think that was the opposite street that I was working at. I was in Frith Street in Soho, I think, at the time. And it became like a sort of pillar of that sort of Soho area, this escargot restaurant as well.
Amazing.
Together with Phil Howard. So you did that. You did your London scene. You then left the London scene.
Yeah.
And you ended up in Gloucestershire.
Yeah, eventually I sort of moved into the home counties and then into Gloucestershire. Sort of was the head chef for a while in a hotel, met my husband, we had children, and then, you know, I needed a job that was closer to home in Gloucestershire. So I went and worked for the lovely Dalesford Organic for 10 years and became a product developer for them and also managed their production units and also a jam making factory there as well, which is where I fell in love with it.
This is where you fell in love with it as well. So tell me how it all started, because you haven't, you know, it's gone on to be a huge success for you, but you still kept it quite small, well, very small, local. Tell me about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, I mean, I did work in quite a big jam factory. I loved doing that. As my son grew a bit older, I wanted to maybe, you know, have a job that worked with the family a little more. So I started making a few small batches at home in my home kitchen and selling them to a local delicatessen and a couple of other places. I also thought I needed to get a benchmark for my product, so entered my product into the Great Taste Awards, got some fabulous feedback, and I thought, well, I must be doing something right. And sales started skyrocket, and I thought, right, I'm going to do this full time. I'm going to take the plunge, and I've got a little 10-foot by 20-foot jam kitchen, purpose-built, lovely little kitchen, and I just make, as you would at home, really, lots and lots of very small batches of jam. And I've never wanted to go large scale. I want to keep it small scale and keep the flavour true and keep the product just, you know, a really excellent product. That's all I want to do, really.
Well, I know the chefs here are looking at this, going 10-foot by 20-foot, little artisan places. Now I'm going to get into... I've tasted this. I know how good this is as well. So I want you to taste... Which would you recommend? You've sent us some marmalade. You've sent us some jam. Which would you recommend us tasting first? The marmalade, I presume. Would you try that first?
I'd say the jam first, because the lemon marmalade is a real big hitter. So try the jam first.
Okay, taste the jam first, because this is your trademark, if there is a trademark jam. Tell us about this then, because this is this plum jam. This is really, really special.
The Blaisdon red plums originally are from Blaisdon in Gloucestershire, and they're a very rare, unique fruit. There aren't many Blaisdon trees left in the county and in the country, and it's just got a really lovely, deep, complex flavour, good acidity as well, and it just makes incredible jam.
I mean, that's, for me, you mentioned the word acidity there, and it's beautiful. Quite often with jams, you get them, they're so jammy, they're so sweet, they're so sticky that actually the flavour of the fruit completely disappears. And this,
yeah.
I mean, there is this wonderful... I was going to ask, is that acidity? Do you add lemon to it? Do you add anything? Or is that the actual fruit that's coming through?
That's fruit. There's only 2 ingredients in that jar, and that's the Blaisdon plums and the sugar. So it's just really balancing the fruit flavour and the sugars. That's it.
They're amazing. It tastes absolutely fantastic. You can really taste it.
And I presume you're getting all the fruit from the local area, are you? That's the key to it. How do you find out about where this fruit is grown? Because, I mean, I grow plums in the garden here, and they don't taste like those. Where did they come from?
It was really difficult originally to try and track down Blaisdon plums because I had heard about them anecdotally because they used to be available in the 1930s by the hundreds and hundreds. So I had to really try and find some local growers of Blaisdons. There's no commercial growers as such. So I even put a post out on Facebook to ask if anyone had Blaisdons in their back gardens. And I've worked with private growers and private orchard owners, and basically by word of mouth. So I've worked with the same orchard growers now for about the last 5 years, and the fruit is fantastic.
It is, and you've tasted that one. Now taste the marmalade as well, because the fruit of all this labour is in awards. Now, between these two, they've got an awards cabinet that could fill most libraries. you top trump any of that. Awards, just... I mean, whether this is true or not, I did a little bit of research on you yesterday. 530 awards? and counting?
Something like that. I think it might be 570 now, something like
come
that.
on, that was last week.
This is amazing.
570. I mean, I've tasted jams and marmalade. That is.
Oh my
That
God.
feels like my mouth's just been beaten up by a Sorrento lemon. Like, it's just like, I feel my mouth feels bruised and battered by it. It's delicious.
I mean, how incredible
top of the
is that?
charts, this
But
one.
I'm assuming. I mean, you're still making all this. There's just you. The temptation would be to take this and build it bigger. You want to still keep it exactly as you always done it. I'm assuming you must put the labels on it. You must do everything then.
I do everything. It's only me in the business. So literally from sourcing the fruit to the finished packaged jar, that's all me. I even dispatch everything myself as well. So I keep very busy.
Yeah. Well, I wish you all the very best with it. I've got in here, so I've just made some scones or scones. If you think that's controversial, wait for the next bit. I'm going to basically put these in the oven, about 200 degrees. That's going to go in there for 12 minutes. Allow them to cool down. Now, deep breath. I butter the scones.
See, this is a whole new mental thing I've just found out about today.
Well, I've just buttered them all, so it's too late.
yeah. I'm like...
So I butter them all. Now, this is for you.
Well,
Not for you.
I'll go cream first, mate.
Oh, well, this will upset you even more. But
well,
let me just put a bit of this on. Is this making you sort of twitch?
Well, no, because you put butter on it, right? So the argument always is whether you're Cornish or Devon version, right? So the Cornish version is jam, then cream. The Devon version is cream, then jam, right?
Right.
And now I got to be honest, I vote with the Devon one. I go for the cream, then the jam, because I want the cream. I want loads of it. And I view it, I see the cream as going, well, actually, I put the cream on in because I treat it as butter. Never in my life have I seen someone go butter, then jam, then cream. Like, you've added an extra layer of fat into that.
Well,
and
yeah,
I got to be honest, I quite like it, James.
Well, because as you know, Tom, scones were invented in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
You Englishmen are so controversial. Get on with it. I need it.
Look, I can't be bothered, to be honest with you, but I'm just putting this on just so... Then we take some of this...
On top.
This is... put a dollop of this... I mean, this is amazing. I've never tasted plums like these before. These are just delicious. But we take a dollop of that, and I'm going to put this on a... I was going to put it on a... I'll put it on a board like that. So these are the ones... Where are these from? These are the ones from where?
Cream on first is Devon.
Right.
So... But I don't even know if in Devon they put butter then cream. I mean, this is how you do cream teas in Yorkshire. Everything with butter first. Yorkshire or just James's house?
We don't. We do scone mix in a loaf tin. That's what we do.
you just put jam and clotted cream into a Yorkshire
I always
pudding.
think it should be... It's like the open bacon sandwich. It should be equal quantities of bacon, butter, bread, and then maple syrup.
I mean,
Just
maple
a
syrup.
level. And I think this should be the same. Equal quantities of dry matter, butter, clotted cream.
I'm not going to say... I'm not going to deny that is a flavour combination that we're... I mean, the argument is what goes on first. I mean...
Well, I'm going to put that on a plate for you.
Butter going on first means that you avoid all the
Sarah
arguments.
sat there going, who cares? Because this just tastes amazing anyway.
It's amazing, doesn't it? I mean, it looks...
I'm just going to give you the opposite one, so you can try that one. But there you have it.
Honestly, that jam is incredible.
This is beautiful, Sarah. Amazing. It melts in your mouth.
Thank you.
Yeah, the scone mix is not bad either, but other than that, your jam's all right. But
Scones are lovely, James. The scones are lovely.
That's right. I wish you all the very best with it as well. There you have it. So, a simple little scone recipe, whichever way you do it. With that jam, it tastes absolutely amazing. Best of luck with it. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, James.
There you go. Right, I'll be treating Rugby World Cup winner Phil Vickery to surf and turf very shortly. And don't miss this week's little masterclass of Swiss roll. But join us again after the break when Tom and Atul will be trying to solve some of your kitchen dilemmas. Is it a scone or is it a scone? See you after the break. Welcome back. Now I'll be cooking my first course for my guest Phil Vickery very shortly, and I'll be giving you a masterclass in Swiss roll later on this morning. But before that, I'm here with chefs Tom Kerridge and Atul Kochhar, and I thought we'd take a look at some of the dishes you've been making at home, and you guys have been so busy. First up, a big well done goes to Tush McCall, who's had a go at the recipe for that mushroom quiche that I made Looking great there. Looks all right, doesn't it?
Looks lovely. Nice.
Well-used
picture as
tins as well.
Yeah.
Proper used tins. Next up, we've had a photograph from Susan Curtis, who made this dish of skate that she finished off with lemon and capers with toasted bread. That was about that one, skate.
Love that classic skate with capers and fresh herbs gone right in at the end. You can see that's lovely.
We've got to say a big well done to Philip Pettican, who's started making his own ravioli, and he served this with a pumpkin sauce. How was about that one? Magic. Pumpkin ravioli, there we go. Final top marks this week goes to Malcolm Alanak, who had a go at one of my favourite dishes of all time, Singapore chili crab. Ooh. So, even throwing in oysters on the side of it as well.
Well, that's what I was looking at.
Singapore chili crab. It's amazing. I love that dish. Now, as well as your photographs, we've also had loads of questions about food and cooking. So I thought, seeing as the two guys were here, we'd have a go at answering a few of them right now. So here we go. This is like a question time for foodies. All right?
Okay.
Quick fire questions, all right? I've got to put my glasses on for this one.
Can't get these wrong, otherwise we look like so bad.
Right, Graham Bradshaw, what is the most important bit of cooking advice you've ever been given in your life?
Treat the ingredient with love and respect and it will do exactly the same thing back, irrespective of whether it's a piece of broccoli, cabbage or a fillet steak.
I totally agree, but I also say that cook with passion, and if it comes from within, you will be guided through by yourself.
There was a sign on every single section when I worked at the Waterside Inn when I was younger. It had taste, season, taste again. It had it in English and French, and I always remember that. Taste, 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 taste,
Perfect.
taste.
Yeah.
There you go. Alan Taylor, what is Wagyu beef, and what makes it so special, and what makes it so expensive?
Well, it's beef that
Japanese.
comes with Japanese heritage, although it can be done at lots of different places now. Australia do a lot, but it's actually it's the way that it's looked after, the heritage that goes into it, what it's fed, the breed, the mass, the siring, the family tree of it. But it has a huge, really high fat content in it. So the way you cook Wagyu beef is actually very different to the way we cook grass-fed beef. We like hard, fast cooking, which creates beautiful, strong flavour. Wagyu beef is actually designed to just gently kind of melt away in beautifully seasoned stock. So it's a different product, but it's all to do with the husbandry and the time it takes to get there.
I look at Wagyu beef and always say it's a meat puff pastry.
Yeah.
Layer of fat and meat in there, right?
Meat
and
puff pastry, there you go.
You've got to cook it really carefully.
Right, we got Lawrence. I've got some garlic, lots of garlic. I don't know what to do with it other than just crush it and chop it. What else would I do with it? Garlic, lots of garlic.
Well, it's one of the basics of most of the cookings, to be honest, Italian, Indian.
Would you paste it? Would you paste it in oil?
If I had to store it for a while, then yes, I'll paste it in oil, but I also like to make a paste just with water and freeze it and then use it as and when I need it. But if I had lots of garlic, I love to pickle it because I love pickles, and I would put mustard seeds, curry leaves, turmeric, red chili powder, a little bit of mango powder and lemon juice, saute it together and then bring to boil, add garlic to it, and keep it. And you can blanch the garlic to bring the longevity, but if you just put straight garlic in there and keep it covered in oil,
fantastic,
it'll last you for years.
There you go. So we've got a few more questions over here. Lara, just moved house. There's a fig tree at the bottom of the garden. You lucky thing. What do I do with them? Figs?
I love making chutney from figs, to be honest, and the spices that work incredibly well are clove, bay leaf. You can use mustard seed as well, and keep the spicing very gentle. You don't want too much chili in there. Use right amount of vinegar. For a kilo of fruit, I use about 200 ml of vinegar.
Yeah, dry them out slightly in the oven, dehydrate them, and then make breads with them, chop them up, put them into cake mixes.
I would just cut them in half, but keep them whole, so just make a little star in the top, push them out. I'd put some dolce latte cheese or dolce latte torta, which is that melted with mascarpone, put that on the top, wrap it in thin bacon. You want something like speck or Parma ham, really thin, and then roast it in a hot oven. Oh,
that'll be amazing.
Drizzle of balsamic vinegar, olive oil, done. Or you can dehydrate them, whatever you want, but it's all good. And Annie bought some scallops from your local fisherman. What do I do with them? Hasn't got a clue what to do with them.
Scallops.
Impulse buy, clearly. Scallops, any ideas?
Send it to our restaurants.
Yeah, I mean, the first bit, the hardest part of cooking a scallop is actually the prep bit. If you've never done it before, it's opening the shell and taking all the kind of the skirt bit from the outside. Give it a quick clean, and then I would put it back in the shell with a little knob of butter, some baby leaf spinach and a grated zest of a lemon, put the top back on and bake it in the oven. Something as simple as that. Don't overthink cooking scallops. The hardest bit is cleaning them up.
Yeah.
If it's the fresh one, I would actually just clean it exactly the same way, chop it, and make a quick dressing with lime or lemon flavoured with chili, maybe some spices
Like a
as well.
ceviche sort of thing, yeah.
And make a ceviche.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well done, team. We got there in the end. I think you passed, flying colours. We've still got the scone and scone debate, to be honest. But there you go. If there's anything you'd like to learn about with food or cooking, then do drop us a line and get in touch. We'll try to answer some of the questions right here on the show. And do keep sending your pictures and videos coming in. We'd love to see what you've been inspired to cook at home. Right, still to come, we've got a recipe from Chef Tony Singh, and I'll be showing you the proper way to make a Swiss roll in this week's Little Masterclass. And I'll see you back here in a few minutes when we'll be making surf and turf for England rugby legend Phil Vickery. I'll see you after the break. Welcome back. Now I'll be giving you a crash course in Swiss roll in this week's Little Masterclass, and Chef Tom Kerridge will be treating us to a spiced leg of lamb on a barbecue a little bit later. But first, I'm here with an England rugby star who's achieved legendary status as a key part of that World Cup winning side way back. I can't believe it. It's 2003 when it happened. He's also quite handy behind the hobs. It's the brilliant Phil Vickery! Great to have you at the house. Ching Ching, great to have you at the house as well. Wonderful to see you. First of all, I mean, congratulations, what a career. We're talking about MasterChef. There's so much to talk about. But I know you love your food. Cooking it and eating it and stuff like that. And now farming as well. You were brought up on a farm. So one of your favourite dishes is surf and turf.
Yes, it is, yeah. Anything with meats and proteins and just good produce. I just love food.
Right, well, we've got a nice bit of steak. And this is from the Lake District, this bit of steak. So we're going to serve a nice bit of steak with this. Get the pan nice and hot, and then we're going to pop our steak straight in. This is a nice bit of sirloin steak over there. And you just pop it in and kind of leave it at the same time. At the same time, I've got some onions, and this is so easy to prepare, really. So you just take some beer. You need to use a beer, not a lager. And you take beer, and you just cook the onions in the beer.
So just poach them?
You just poach them in there. And you can take the onions or shallots, and then you take the whole onions like this and just put them in.
Because I love caramelised shallots.
Well, these take them to caramelised, because you've got the sugars in here with the beer. Yeah. Takes it to it. You can do this on a barbecue as well. Cook these for about sort of 30 minutes, let them cool, and you end up with these that are in here. And you've got the onions. Now, you can serve these in salads, but also you can barbecue them, you can char grill them. I'm going to pop them in the pan with the steak as well, because I know you like your onions as well. So, first of all, where do I start with a career like yours? I'm going to start off with, well, life on the farm. First of all, priorities, right? How's the tractor?
Well, it's just the tractor.
This is an in-house story. We have researchers on the show that phone up people and get a little bit of brief. You were a little bit otherwise engaged.
Well, I was at home on the family farm in Kilcampton, which is North Cornwall, helping my brother out. And we were silaging. We got contractors in, forage harvester, tractors going bonkers everywhere. We all know the weather's not been very good. Phil's home to help, brilliant. And basically, I break down doing the first load. So I've got the researcher team phoning me up, trying to find out about food and things and all the rest of it. Forage harvesters, grass, tractors, banging, noise. So we didn't get off to the greatest of starts.
Not the best of starts. No. Anyway, your tractor's fixed, which is good anyway. Yeah. No. So brought up on a family farm. How did you get into the rugby? Was that because...
Well, I didn't. Wasn't a classic story. I didn't actually start playing rugby till I went to secondary school.
Right.
I went to Budehaven Comp, and you had to play sports.
Right.
And got involved. And I think being a big kid, usually last to be picked. I was good in goal at five-a-side. That was about it.
So what do you mean a big kid? Were you?
Oh, whopper.
You're big.
Yeah, whopper.
Right.
And then suddenly, Phil was useful in the rugby team.
Yeah, funny that, isn't it?
I went from being picked last to first.
Yeah.
And I just really enjoyed. Probably took me a couple of years, and I just started really enjoying it. I went down to Bude Rugby Club, welcomed me in.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love. I didn't have ambitions to go on and do my rugby career. I just fell in love with rugby. I love the camaraderie, the laughter.
Sport, or I know you love sport anyway. Any sport.
I just love anything bringing people together, laughs.
But did you have that competitive edge, or?
I mean, competitive edge.
Yes.
Am I belligerent? Am I relentless? Will you ever beat me? Will I ever stop? Am I driven? Yeah. But you know, but I think that also comes from the farming world as well. You know, you're quite resilient and got to, you know, it's hard work. It's repetitive. It's relentless. Being a pro sportsman is relentless. It's day after day. It's not. It's like today, lights on, camera, action. But actually, 99% of it is lights off. Gym, recovery, prehab, rehab, analysing.
When was the moment for you when you thought this is I'm going to do this professionally? When was the moment when you thought?
Well, I didn't actually know. I mean, I got invited up to Gloucester.
Because you did that quite. I mean, it's quite young.
I was 19, and I remember being invited up, and they actually got you a job then, because the game wasn't professional. They got me a job on a local dairy farm. You got a sponsored car, and they looked after you. I remember going into a house share with a couple of other guys.
This is completely opposite to football. This is why I love rugby. 19-year-old, you're taken to Chelsea, you're looked after, you're given whatever. This, you were working
but literally after 6 months, after 12 months, or within that year, the game went so-called pro, and I got offered a contract, and I was like, yeah, let's do this. And it was it just happened.
It just happened. So, look, we've got us... Well, this is just happening in the pan over here. We've got our steak over here. Now, I'm going to show you, because I know you like it sort of medium rare, how it comes with the steak. So, you decide how you want your steak, and you continue to cook it the other side. I've cooked it one side. And then we take a stock cube. So, this is a beef stock cube, and this is your pepper bit. But you put the stock cube over the top. Not too much.
Just a normal
beef stock cube. And this gives it this umami sort of flavour. It's amazing flavour. This guy called Wolfgang Puck, he's been on the show here, he's been at the house, he's got amazing restaurants. His most famous one is called Spargo in Beverly Hills. And he's got restaurants called Cut, which are a famous steakhouse. Yep. And he finishes it off with, he told me this little sort of secret. You can actually take a bit of stock cube and mix together with salt.
Okay.
And have that ready as a little steak seasoning at the end. And then when you want it, you just take it off the heat like that, and you just baste the beef as you're doing it, and that'll just sit there to one side and leave it to rest.
I always say to people, the biggest mistake people make with meats is the resting bit.
Yeah, you just got to leave it to one side and just let it sit there. Meanwhile, we've got our prawns, flour, egg, and breadcrumbs. Instead of breadcrumbs, I'm using 4 parts desiccated coconut. These are coconut shrimp. These are amazing, with a little bit of breadcrumbs in it. Coconut? It's just... They taste unbelievable, these. And I'm going to serve this with a little chili mixture. So you take the flour again into the egg and into the crumbs. So we talk about, obviously, you played in Cornwall, in the south, and then you end up at Gloucester. Then you end up sort of... We've got to talk about England, because you topped and tailed your career with some sort of quite iconic moments, isn't it, really? So your second ever cap didn't go the way one of the last caps went.
Well, my second game for England was actually Johnny Wilkinson's first game for England, so to bring it all around, it was in Stadium Australia. It was dubbed the Tour of Hell in 1998. And my second cap for England, we actually lost to Australia 76-0. But no one talks about that.
What was... Because that can either make you or break... Can it make you or break you as a team?
Well, I think you find out about people, don't you? But I think that's life, isn't it? Without getting to it, I'm quite a deep soul. That's life. You find out about yourself, and you make choices. You either stand up, you do something about it, or you don't. Yeah. And I think, ultimately, my rugby career, to bring it all around, it's the people that you played with. And I'm quite an emotional person. And even recently doing bits and pieces for a TV show. I was with Martin Johnson, and I said to Jono, I said, Matt, I get so emotional. I said, I can't help it. And he said, Vic, that's why we love you. It's the people that you do things with, and ultimately, when you're successful, actually, you celebrate success, but what makes it special are the failures.
Well, when you speak to a lot of successful people in all forms of life, whether it's sport or whether it's business or anything, it is that highs and the lows, and it's how they pick themselves up and move on, brush themselves off, and crack on.
Get back at it. Get out there next week, following week, and even England Rugby World Cup. 6 days later, running out for Gloucester versus Northampton in the league.
I've got to talk about that because I can't believe. First of all, I'm going to take the shrimp now, and this is going to go in the fryer. But I can't believe it's sort of 20 years ago. Well, there's iconic moments. I remember exactly where I was when I was in a pub in Winchester, and I remember that last kick. It was like getting showered in beer. I had a pint in my hand, and that just went with everything else that was in the whole pub just erupted.
That's my love of sport, love of rugby, but love of sport. It's those moments that you share, in us being involved in hospitality, particularly based around food and drink. Yes, it's about the food and drink, but actually it's not. It's a conversation, the people, where you are. And people don't talk to me about the game and about who did what and this try or that try. A little bit about Wirkle's drop goal, of course. It's such an iconic one motion. They'll tell you who they were with, what they were wearing, what they were drinking, what the conversation was, and that's what makes it iconic. That's what sport can do. That's, for me,
it's
what makes it
interesting that you
special.
say the analogy, like, and we talk about food now. Now you've got a restaurant now, and you're about to open a bigger restaurant, a different site?
we just moved number 3 to a slightly bigger site, yeah.
But you say there's similarity between restaurants and sport and teamwork.
I think my love of food is I love the whole bit. I love talking to producers, makers, some of the stories of people who are doing baking, pulsing, pressing. Then you bring it into the kitchen. What did I love about doing MasterChef? I didn't go on to win the thing. I just went on because I love watching the show, but I love food. And then suddenly you get in there and you go into a kitchen, and probably the bit that I love about it more than anything, you can be super famous chef, maitre d', whatever it is. Nothing works like pot wash. Nothing works like pot wash.
I know, that's the most important person in the kitchen.
To bring it all back to the rugby analogy, all the superstar try scorers, super fast, quick, intricate detail. If you don't get the scrum right, props, second row, line out, drive, more. It's a team, and I fell in love with just being in that environment.
Now, all this is building up to... I cannot believe you guys have not done this before, because you're about to do something very, very special. You're about to do a one-off night at the Apollo.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the first time that all you guys have been back together.
It's the first time every single one of us, all the guys have been back together.
I can't believe that, first of all, but tell us about what it involved, because I'm definitely coming for this one. I'm definitely having a ticket for this. This is going to be a great night.
It's kind of... I don't think they know 100%. All I know is we're going to be on stage. There'll be conversation. There'll be laughter. There'll be some wonderful stories for sure. I know there's going to be opportunities for pictures and for photos. But I just think the first time we all get back together...
it's going to be quite emotional.
Well, listen, I get emotional anyway. But all I can tell you, James, is that even today, if I walk into a room with any one of the guys that I was lucky enough to be with in 03 and do that on that incredible evening, the hairs stand up on the back of my neck.
Even now?
Oh, even just talking about it now, it's just happened.
So did you? I mean, obviously we've got rugby on at the moment and everything else, and the game was. I mean, it's just got. I mean, it's got bigger and bigger and bigger, and now
different.
I mean, it's on at the moment. You know, sadly, England is not in the position of where they were when you were playing, and well, certainly they'll go through their things. But it seems the Ireland. Who do you think this time? You think it's home advantage with France?
Well, I think for France, it'll either go one or two ways. It'll either raise France. I mean, they've been playing some unbelievable rugby, and I think the story of everything there is wonderful, and what a great rugby country, and the stadia, the fans, the whole atmosphere will be, you know, it will be awesome. But for me, I'd love to obviously see my England do well. Scotland are really challenging and showing some.
But they have amazing games, and then they have an off day.
But Ireland are the form team, and everyone says, "Oh, Ireland don't perform in Rugby World Cups." You know, any team which goes to the Southern Hemisphere and goes to New Zealand and wins a Test series, that takes some doing. I'm lucky to have won there once. But I just hope that we compete. But you can't help but think we can talk about all this stuff and all the fancy bits and pieces till the cows come home. The reality is Rugby World Cups will be won, tournaments will be won by the team with the best scrum, best defence, goal kicker and discipline. And that always edges towards the big South Africans. Because what do they have?
All of them.
Yeah. All of those things.
Well, I'll let you enjoy your vino, because meanwhile I'm just going to talk about... So this is the shrimp. These are the shrimp. And I've got this... I mean, we call it... In the restaurant, I call this chili crack, because it's got this crackle in it. It's this crunch with it. It's chili. It's everything. It's umami. It's just amazing. And we take this mixture and you sort of combine this with the shrimp, mix it all together. You can add a little bit of coconut if you want. So I've just got some fresh coconut over here. You can take some slices of fresh coconut in there as well. But this is your coconut shrimp bit. The steak has just been resting. Like that, and you just mix all this lot together and you get this amazing shrimp. And then when you serve it, like that, you can put some of your chili shrimp with it as well. Now, normally in the restaurant I'd put 3, but as soon as we've got an England rugby player here, I'm going to put 23 on here. But just taking a little bit of this over the top as well. This is your coconut as well. And then you've got your nice little bit of steak. Like you say, always leave it to rest, like that. You can then take that off. And then you can then carve this.
Not bad, chef.
Happy with that? It's happy. Customer's happy. We're going to take a bit of this. You grab your nice steak on there. And then I'm going to grab a touch of watercress. Just a little bit. There. And then not forgetting, we've got one of these onions. You turn this onion over and you've got this amazing caramelised onion that with it. But there you have it, my version. For a bit of a rugby legend, my version of surf and turf. Done. There we are. You moved the wine ready. Bon appetit.
Thank you.
Dive into that. Be interested to know what you think of that little stock cube thing. I think it's a great tip. This gives it a umami sort of flavour. It's really... You just want a little bit over the top, but it's just this... It just... Poof. It's amazing. Honestly, it's a great tip, and it's just whether you do roast beef or anything, just that over the top, just at the end.
Really, really nice.
Happy with that?
Really, really nice.
Happy with that?
Thank
There you go.
you.
We're going to talk about the restaurant later on. There's loads more to talk about as well. There we go. And I was teaching Phil how to fill it. Some place, fresh place, a little bit later on in the show. And there's a masterclass in Swiss roll coming your way very shortly. But I'll see you after the break when we're tucking into a recipe from a good friend of the show, Mr. Tony Singh. I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back. Now we're serving up fried place for rugby star Phil Vickery later this morning, and Tom Kerridge will be laying on a leg of lamb on the barbecue in just a few minutes. But before that, we've got more comfort food on the way from one of the biggest characters in the food world. Yes, all the way from Scotland. He's here. It's Chef Tony Singh with his recipe for chili pig pie. Enjoy this one.
We're going to make my kids' favourite chili pig pie. This recipe came out from basically leftovers. So it's a leftover roast leg of pork, and we marinated it with some 5-spice chili sauce, fish sauce, fresh herbs. So what we start with first is some chopped onions, straight in, chopped garlic, chopped ginger, and now some chopped 5-spice powder. Amazing. So got cassia, clove, Szechuan peppercorn, star anise in it. It's lovely. Sweet chili sauce. Put it in. Light soy sauce. Sweet sherry. And what we're going to do with that, give it a quick mix. Give it a blend. You can put it in a food processor if you want, but I like this. Doesn't need to be too fine, quite coarse. We've got this lovely bit of pork here. We'll get the marinade straight onto that. A couple of hours, yeah, it'll suffice, but you really want to do this overnight. And I'll just wash my hands and get one from the fridge. And here's what we've done yesterday. We'll take it out, pop it on. Then we're going to put on chicken stock. And we're going to add greaseproof paper. So the reason you put greaseproof paper on is the aluminium foil will not react with the meat because it's going to be in for a couple of hours, slow cooking. And if the tin foil straight onto the meat, sometimes it disintegrates onto the meat, which is not very pleasant and a bit dangerous. We're going to pop it into the oven. So the pork's in there for for 2.5, 3 hours, just until it's nearly fallen to bits. But I've got some in the fridge already that we've taken out, cooled, and we'll dice that up now. So that's some of the fat that will come off and it will set once it's cooled down and left in the fridge. Don't throw it away, keep it in the pie because it just adds so much flavour. Phenomenal. Any of the cooking liquor left, that goes in. We're gonna put tomatoes in, blanch, skin taken off, seeds taken out. Nothing worse than tomato skin sticking to your teeth. Spring onions, finely chopped. In they go. Finely sliced red pepper. Look at this, working. Fish sauce going in there. Sweet chili sauce. We're going to put some chopped tarragon. You probably think it's quite strange putting chopped tarragon into some of the so many Eastern flavours. But if you remember, we've got 5 spice in there, which is star anise, is one of their main ingredients. And that aniseed flavour is reinforced with the tarragon. And now we're going to put in coriander. This is a great recipe to do with the kids because it's quite rough and ready, chop in. And like I said, you can do it with leftovers. And we'll give it a mix. Right, pie mixture's made, pastry's rolled out, egg wash is there, pie dishes are there. I'm going to make the pies. We'll get a pastry dish, turn it upside down, cut out the pastry lid shape, and then we'll pop that on top once we fill the pastry pie lid. And we're using a cutter to cut out the snouts, just a bit of decoration. You don't need to do that, but it looks quite cool. Cut it out, and we're rolling little eyeballs for the pigs. And we squash on the pastry lid. It can be a bit messy, doesn't matter. It's a messy pig. Crimp with a fork. Egg wash. And then we've cut out the snouts. We stick them on top with the eyes. So there we have the chili pig pies ready. Pastry's on. The snouts have got holes in them to let the steam out. It's gone in the oven, gas mark 6 or 200 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes until they're crispy and golden brown. So there we have the chili pig pie. Golden brown and smelling wonderful. So we'll pop one. Oh. The best bit about a pie is just when you crack into it. Oh, look at that piece. All the juices have come out of the pork. It's just falling to bits. Dead easy, dead flavoursome. Give it a go, eh? That's wonderful.
How good does that look? Now, there's still a masterclass in Swiss roll coming up very shortly, and more to come from England rugby legend, World Cup winner Phil Vickery. That's coming up a little bit later, but I'll see you back here in a few minutes when Mr. Tom Kerridge will be firing up the barbecue. I can smell it from here, and sharing his recipe for spiced leg of lamb. I'll see you after the break. Welcome back. Now, coming up, I'll be showing you how to make a classic Swiss roll in this week's little masterclass. And I'll be serving up a plate of fried plaice for rugby legend Phil Vickery. That's coming up a little bit later. But first, I'm here with a certain Atul Kochhar, and we're about to enjoy a dish from a rugby-mad chef who's cooked at Twickenham Stadium, as well as the Michelin-starred kitchens of his famous pub, the Hand and Flowers. It's the brilliant Mr. Tom Kerridge.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you on the show, Chef. Good to have you in the house. What are you going to be doing then? A nice piece of lamb?
Yeah, a lovely piece of lamb. I'm going to be doing a leg of lamb and I'm going to marinate and spice it. A lovely spice mix, but not like hot peppery spice, like just flavoursome spice.
Would that be a Indian flavoured spice mix?
It's not, no. It's a kind of Eastern Mediterranean, North African.
I wouldn't be stepping into that side of the...
Exactly, I'm not going to...
He's giving me run for the money.
The fact that Marlo's got two of Atul's restaurants in, we never touch the Indian stuff. We go there for our Indians. Like, that's where we go. So, yeah, we're going to be doing those sort of flavours coming together, and I love that kind of spice mix.
Yeah.
And roasting the leg of lamb. We're going to do it, actually, in that oven there. So it's you can do it indoors. But first thing we're going to get on, we're going to serve it with some couscous. Right? I love... It's really easy. This is quick-cooked couscous. OK, so into that, chop in, for me, James, red onion, 2 preserved lemons. Preserved lemons, I absolutely love them. That kind of North African, Eastern Mediterranean flavour you get from those lemons, the spice, the acidity, the punch, works really well with the couscous. And a quick-cooked couscous is it's a great alternative to rice, and it is really easy. You haven't actually... I mean, by quick cook, we're not really going to do any cooking, are we? I've got here some stock.
The key to it, you're using stock instead of water as well for that one.
Exactly. Again, about trying to layer flavour. Here I've got chicken stock, but if you've got lamb stock, that'll work really nicely as well.
Now, you mentioned Marlow, of course. Now you've got sort of people opening up restaurants on your doorstep as well. What is it like in Marlow when some place comes up for rent? Is it a battle between you and him? No. Or chefs just turning up?
No, to be honest, actually, Marlow's got loads of lovely restaurants. We're very fortunate that the high street, it's got a real wonderful energy and a great vibrancy. It works really nicely. No, I think I'm quite happy with how many I've got, and I can't speak for Atul.
Same for me. Enough.
OK, so come up to the boil. It's the chicken stock, lamb stock, the saffron. Pour it all over.
You want that in there as well?
We're going to add that in there as well, please, James. Yeah, we're going to throw in the preserved lemon and the red onion.
There you go.
We're just going to give it a stir and then cling foam it up. And that hot stock should cook the couscous in the time that we get everything else done.
I'm sure it will.
Yeah, me too. In here, we've got some yoghurt, and I've just put in some smoked paprika, and this is going to be the marinade for the lamb. Now, yoghurt it goes on to... I mean, it's used a lot in Indian cookery, isn't it, in terms of marinating and spicing, holding those spices together. But it also works well as tenderising, making sure that the meat has that kind of, like, wonderful texture to it. Yeah. So the spice mix is going to go into it. We've got here some ground cumin, some ground coriander, some ground cinnamon. We've got baharat, which is a spice mix, which is made of cumin, coriander, smoked paprika. It's that North African kind of flavour. And in the middle, the one that I really like...
Indian garam masala?
It's a kind of Indian garam masala with
all
nice
spice mix of spices, that actually no one knows the actual... no one knows how many it is. It's a trade secret. But in the middle of it, we've got sumac as well, which is kind of like, I suppose, like a flower, a red flower, really fragrant, quite peppery. OK. Absolutely delicious.
Now, we mentioned Marlow. Tell me, what brought you to Marlow, anyway? What brought you to the Hand and Flowers? What brought you there?
Well, I've been looking for a pub. Me and my wife, Beth, we've been looking for a site for ages, and we were looking all the way through North London, where we were living at the time, all the way around the home counties. And then we both knew Marlow anyway, because we had friends that lived in Henley, and we knew the area. And it was looking at a site that we saw on the internet, to be honest. We were looking at taking on a tenancy because we opened it when I was 31 years old. And, you know, when you're 31, there's not a huge amount of money. Banks won't lend it to you very much. You know, there's all those sort of... So how do we get to it? So we took on a tenancy of this, of a Green King pub. And from there, we just went, OK, this is where we want to be. We could see it, and I could just tell... There was just something about it on the internet, the pictures of it, the thing, and I just thought, we've got to go and see this space. We've got to get there. Because it's big enough to grow, but it was small enough to manage as a really small team, as a husband and wife, and it worked for those reasons. And, you know...
Because that was nearly 20 years ago now.
It is, yeah. It's 18 and a half years. Here we are coming out of 20 years very soon. I know, it's a long time.
It's anniversaries for all over the place. Is it, what's 10 years more or less on television now? Is it since Great British Menu?
Yeah, Great British Menu. Yeah, 2009, 2010 actually was the Great British Menu one that I won, and then I went back and did it quite fortunately and won it again the second year. So it's been an amazing journey. You know, and we're so lucky. I mean, you as a chef, we're all chefs. You know, we've ended up on this journey through food and pots and pans of being able to get to the point where we're doing other stuff, running restaurants and doing things, and it's great.
Anyway, we'd expect... So you put the marinade on there.
Marinade on there, leave it for at least 20 minutes, OK? That's the thing. You've got to leave it for at least 20 minutes to sit in that marinade. For me, ideally, even overnight would work really well.
OK.
Then, onto a grill. Now, if you haven't got a grill like this, don't worry.
You to wash your hands.
Yeah, thank you very much. You could do it in a pan. You could do it under a really high grill under the oven. But what we're trying to do is trying to caramelise and cook the outside of the fat of that lamb without burning the yoghurt, which is good. You know, it's going to be quite a hard thing to do. We've just got to keep an eye on it a little bit. We do want charred bits. We do want that kind of bitterness of flavour. I love it when things... You know, when you cook in a tandoor, like James has got one there, that tandoor, when you cook in it, where it burns, that caramelisation, I think is absolutely fantastic. So you want that, but you don't want it burnt. There's a difference, isn't there? There's a difference.
Well, you've written books on barbecues. You've done all manner of different things. I think last time you were on, you did a book on barbecue. This is celebrating what 10 years. This is a 10-year anniversary in terms of television.
And books. So this is my 10th book. This is my 10th book, 10 years doing it.
Which is almost going back full circle, back to the pub.
100%. So the first one was called Proper Pub Food. It's a 10-year anniversary on that book. But actually, what it is more of, to me, is a reflection on the way that the British food scene has changed over those 10 years and the way that pubs have grown.
But that's a great celebration too.
Yeah, when I first started cooking, and you think of what the pubs and how we used to view pubs and what they were like. I mean, they were laughable.
I'm probably a little bit older than you, so I remember the old Burney Inns. That was the fancy pub where we used to go to.
Yeah.
Every 3 months we used to have a special treat to the Burney Inns. It was always peas, a jacket potato, and you'd have fancy mustard. First time ever Dijon mustard. Now you've got things like flatbreads and beef dripping.
We've grown to the point now where pubs used to be about stuff out of the freezer, and now actually you go to a local pub. All of us, we expect something quite nice. And it doesn't have to be Michelin stars, but just something that's maybe grown locally, something that comes from the area, something that has wonderful flavour, chefs that look after it. And that's, you know, that's a wonderful and true reflection on the British food scene. Right, you can see this lamb.
I love the way...
Now where you're keeping your eye on it now?
Now we're keeping an eye on it. That's what we want, that caramelisation, that colour. And we'll keep moving it around and try and get that spice mix cooking. Now, to go with it, going to make a yoghurt tahini kind of dressing. So here...
You want your lemon in it?
Yeah, lemon zest and juice of half.
That's the garlic.
Grated garlic, yeah, throw that in as well. That'd be lovely, mate.
I'll do your herbs while you're doing that.
Thank you very much. Now, the tahini, I love that kind of sesame flavour, that paste that it's got. Going to mix that with the yoghurt.
Now, TV-wise, we've seen you do all manner of different bits and pieces. Tell me about the hospitality thing, because that's quite an interesting, fascinating look. Nobody's ever really looked at that before, or done that before.
Well, we filmed it for a whole year behind the scenes in the hospitality industry, but actually kind of through the eyes of my businesses. So we've got, you know, we have the Michelin star space, but we've also got, you know, a butcher's that is all about beer and sport, and we've also got, you know, an event company, and we've also do all sorts of bits and bobs, and we've gone through restaurant openings and closures throughout the whole series. You know, we closed Manchester, sadly, and, you know, and it was a real reflection of the pressures that are on the industry right now, with real-life people that were in it and how it was affecting their businesses. And, yeah, so it's 8-part series. It was on BBC. You can watch it on the iPlayer, keep up with it, and it's been a real... Like, it's been a real learning curve for me, meeting those people. And the one thing that connects everybody in the world of food is we're led by passionate people. Now, whether that's about the jams that we tried earlier, whether it's through to someone who, you know, breeds lamb, whether it's someone who grows herbs, there's always that sense of passion that comes through, and it's wonderful. Now, this is a leg of lamb. We was talking about it earlier. Now, I've taken the shank bit off.
Yeah.
OK, because that's the bit that takes that little bit longer cooking. So what we do is try and get as much colour, caramelisation on this as possible.
Yeah.
Then
do you want to try?
We put it back on the tray. Yeah,
Sorry,
here we
I'm not doing my job properly.
It's all right, don't worry, chef, it's fine. We get the colour on it, caramelise, and then we whack it into an oven, a really high heat, and we'll roast it for around about 15 to 20 minutes, okay? Like really high heat, take it off, leave it to rest. Now, I love a leg of lamb, but I quite like it done medium to medium well. I don't want it chewy. Lamb's a little bit chewy. Right. Couscous, look at that, it's done. How magic was that? And into that, we've got fresh herbs. We've got mint, coriander. I chopped up some baby cucumbers, threw them in. Lemon juice has gone in, hasn't it,
Lemon juice is in, yeah.
Seasoned it?
Not yet.
OK, pinch
And
of
if
salt.
that's not enough, you're about to launch a new series on ITV.
Yeah, it comes out next.
So he's come over to Marlow, and now you're following me everywhere.
Well, it's one of those shows where I'm cooking, and we're in a food truck, and we basically travel up and down the length and breadth of the country looking for really passionate and wonderful farmers and suppliers, and I turn it into a food truck and I cook the food. It's like TV from 20 years ago, you know, like when you just visit, see lovely people, cook their lovely food, celebrate it. Yeah, so that we're in the middle of filming that right now.
So I think TV from 20 years ago. Ready, Steady, Cook was when I was doing that.
Yeah, the only difference is I'm not wearing a bandana this time.
And Floyd was on TV that time?
He was on the TV, yeah. Well, Floyd was the one that spotted me 31 years ago.
Wow. Wow.
OK.
31 years ago, there you go.
That's now made us all feel really old.
Well, I'm definitely old. Definitely old.
OK, so the lamb has been roasted, gone in the oven.
Yeah.
We're going to leave it to rest.
Do you want that hot on there, or are you...
No, I was trying to put the flames out without anybody noticing.
Oh, so, yeah. You created even more smoke.
Yeah, creating even more smoke. We got to that point. So with lamb, roasted leg of lamb, there's 3 or 4 different kinds of ways of cutting this, but I really like to go kind of against the grain, OK, rather than with it. And you get this, look at that. Wow. See, that for me is beautifully cooked, perfectly rested. Those lovely flavours. You know that meat is going to be absolutely delicious because of the spice and the marinade.
As well as the restaurant and the hand of flowers and the book and bits and pieces in Mallow, you've got about the pub, the butcher's bit that you've got as well, because that's quite an interesting thing that you've got there.
Yeah, the butcher's tap and grill. So it's one that we opened pre-COVID, and it was you know, it was that crossover of it being a butcher's and a pub, and then COVID came, everything obviously shut down, which was a pain. And then when we could reopen again, the butchers could stay open. But when it could reopen as a pub, we went kind of resorted back to type, and we put in our, you know, a little grill in there. So now you can go in, you can buy the bits of meat that you want, and then for a charge, the chef's there will cook it for you. So you can look in the counter, see what you want, pick it, buy it, and then we'll cook it for you, which works really, really nicely. Exactly. Or you can take it home and cook it yourself. OK, so we've got the couscous that's got that lovely flavour, really simple, really delicious.
Looks amazing.
I mean, you can see that's packed full of flavour. You've got the tahini yoghurt, you've got the roasted leg of lamb, and then I've just sprinkled on the top bit of pomegranate.
All from the new book, which is called?
Pub Kitchen. Tom Kerridge's
You have to
Pub
think
Kitchen.
about it there. That's what happens when you have 10 books, you see.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a long way to catch up. Can you remember all 35 of yours?
Yeah. Anyway, Tom Kerridge, everybody. Hey! Atul, dive in. Tell me what you think. I've got to taste this. Bit of this, bit of this.
You want a dab of that on it?
Dab of that. Bit of this as well.
Bit of pomegranate, mate.
Amazing, mate. Amazing.
So it all works together, doesn't it? The lamb without that, with that.
It's a roast with a difference. You could go to pubs now, and you'd have roast beef and Yorkshire pudding, but you still could have roast leg of lamb done like this, and you wouldn't think twice about it in pubs anymore, would you? It's amazing.
There you go. There you have it. Tom Kerridge, everybody. Yay! Right, that chap over there, Atul, will be trying to top trump this dish when he fires up the hobs very shortly, and I'll be talking to rugby star Phil Vickery about this year's World Cup, or of a dish of place a little bit later. But we'll see you back here in a couple of minutes where we're showing you how to make a textbook Swiss roll in this week's little masterclass. See you in a bit. That is delicious. Welcome back. Now, there's still loads more to come from rugby star Phil Vickery this morning, and the first ever Indian chef to win a Michelin star in the UK, Mr. Atul Kochhar, will be cooking for us next. I'm looking forward to that. But first, it's time for this week's masterclass, and this week I'm going to show you and teach you everything you want to know about making a Swiss roll. Now, the reason for this, really, is the banging season at the moment. Towards the end of the season, but still, it depends on where you live, really. You get the most amazing raspberries and strawberries. When you've got fruit this good, particularly by the roadside with the blackberries and bits and pieces, you can create an amazing Swiss roll, really simply. So the first thing, looking at the ingredients for our Swiss roll, we use eggs, we use sugar, and with flour. Now, this is a standard cake recipe, really, but a cake recipe would be equal quantities of everything. Equal quantities of sugar, eggs and flour, as in weight. The difference between that and a Swiss roll is usually a Swiss roll is half the amount of flour to the same, so it's equal quantities, but half the amount of flour. That means that when we roll it up, it shouldn't get any cracks in it. But the way we start it off is add the eggs. Try and do this at room temperature with the eggs. I always find that's better. And then we use caster sugar. Now, when you add in caster sugar to eggs, make sure you're ready to mix this straight away. What you don't want to be doing is leaving the sugar in there. Otherwise, the sugar will actually start to cure the eggs. And you'll notice that if you make a cake, put the sugar in, wander off on the phone, bits and pieces, come back, and there's little bits of yellow bits that are stuck in there you can't get rid of, that's because the sugar has cured the egg. You'll never get rid of it. You'll almost start again. So as soon as the sugar's added, get that mix in. And what you want, this is nice and light, and there's a way you can test that in a second. So the flour's the flour, we've got that ready. Meanwhile, we can prepare the rest of our ingredients for this ready. I've got some raspberries, I've got some strawberries. Now, like I said, when they're this good, and they are this good, you don't need to add any sugar, nothing. We're not creating a coulis with it, we're just creating a puree. Now, also, there's no need to pass it. And often when you're doing this and you see recipes, they often tell you to cook the berries. The only reason why you would cook the berries, really, is to get more juice out of it, but then you offset the flavour, if that makes sense. So by cooking the berries, you don't get this lovely fresh flavour that you get when you're doing this. And I think this is important when you're doing a Swiss roll like this. So as soon as you got your puree, like that, we've got that in our little pot. That is exactly what we need. Then I'll lose this machine out of the way. And then we can turn our attention to our tin. Now, we've got in here quite a large tin. And what we need to do, first of all, is grab a little bit of butter. And although this is a non-stick tin, we're still going to line it, but we use butter to go around the edge. Now, it's important when you butter the tin, it goes round the edge, right into the corners. That's the key. So go right into the corners like that. Now, what this will do is help the paper stick to the tin. But there's the way you actually prepare the paper, first of all. Now, you could just take the paper and press it all in, but then you'd have creases with it. And the problem is with creases, then the sponge sticks to the creases, and then when you take the sponge out, you end up with chunks coming out of your sponge. Looks like something's eaten it on the corners. Well, to prevent that, you can make a perfect edge to the paper. So we're just going to trim this down to size. You want it about sort of 2 centimetres larger than the tin. Use that out of the way. And then this is the tip, really. So you take your paper and you cut about 2 inches, something like that. A decent cut into each corner like that, all the way around. Keep going. Now, the good thing about this, technically, you can't over-mix it as well while this is mixing away. You just keep going on a high setting, just keep whisking it and whisking it and whisking it. So once you've got it cut like this, then you take your tin. Now, this works on a larger, deeper tin as well. You can take the same idea. Actually works on a circular piece of paper. If you make the same style cuts, when you line a circular tin, it won't add any creases in as well. So when you put the paper in, and make sure it's roughly central like that, when you press the paper in, and you press the edges, you end up with a perfect edge. Hopefully, you can get that, but there, look at that. You get that perfect edge without any creases in, which means that when you take your sponge out, hopefully, you won't have any sponge stuck in those creases. It should just come out straight away. So you get a perfect edge is exactly what we want there. So push the paper in. Now, the oven's set about 180 degrees, so quite a low oven, really, compared with a normal sponge. Usually it's cooked a lot hotter than that. But what you want to do now is you've got your flour ready, is then test this sponge. The best way to do it is what I call a little figure of 8, is to stop the machine. So if you then take off the whisk and you create a little figure of 8 in the top, the idea being by the time you finish the 8, the first bit should be still visible, which is that. You can see that's there. That's when you know it's ready. If it's not and it disappears, keep whisking it. Simple as that. Now, when you incorporate the flour, you can do it 2 ways. Spatula, or on the end of your arm, you've got 5 spatulas. Here. This is much, much faster. Now, I've been a pastry chef for a long, long time, really, and I find that this is the easiest way to do it. And you actually understand what the sponge is doing when you actually can feel it in your fingers. It's like making bread, really. You get the same sort of feeling. You know when it's right. And it mixes in so much faster. You see, if I was doing this with a spatula, it would probably take me 2-3 minutes. By doing it with your hand, that's now mixed in. It's probably taken 15 seconds, something like that. Open up your fingers, go right from the bottom to the top. You're confident when you do it, but that's now done. And the quicker you make this, as in get it in the oven, the better the end result. But you can see it's already mixed in, like that. You can see how lovely and light it is anyway, once you get to that stage. So quick wash of your hands. I just find it's a lot easier than using a spatula. Then what you want to do is take a palette knife and push this into the corners, like that. Now, like I said, the oven is set at about 180. Fan oven for this one, about 180, something like that. Gas, you're looking about gas 4, something like that. Try and cook it in the middle shelf, really. You'll notice if you do a lot of baking at home, you'll know whether your oven's got hot spots and bits and pieces. It can brown, so just turn it if it is hot on one side. But you can just spread this over the top like that. So that is your nice little bit of sponge done. Just clean the palette now, because I'm going to use that in a minute. And then pop it in the oven. It wants 12 minutes. That's all it needs. 12 minutes, straight in the oven. Take it out, allow it to cool, and we end up with this sponge. Now, this is the next bit. To then create a Swiss roll. Quite simply, we just take a clean cloth. And what you want to do is make this damp. So, plenty of cold water. What you're trying to do is just help the process of rolling this up. If you do this in a dry tea towel, it can crack. Where if you use a damp tea towel, it just helps it along the way. So it's not a wet tea towel, it's just damp, all right? Like that. Then we can then take some sugar. So this is just plain caster sugar. Now, if you don't put the sugar on it, what can happen is some of the sponge can actually stick to the tea towel when you take it off. So just utilise that little bit of caster sugar. Then when your sponge is cool, pop it out there, turn it upside down, and then take the paper off. So be careful with the paper, like that. You can rip it so it's easier to take off, but you can see by making those incisions, you get this perfectly square edge to your cake, which is what you want. So, see that again? Another nice square edge. It doesn't look as if something's eaten it, but you've got that nice edge to it. Now, once you've got your nice little sponge like that, I love doing this dessert. I really do. This time of year, I absolutely love it. You take your palette knife and you cut about 1 inch in the top of the sponge. And then using your fingers, press this bit down. It's a bit of a sin, this, isn't it? Destroying this sort of cake, but you press it all down. This is going to help you roll it all up at this stage. So you press it all down. Then you take your sauce and you spread this over the top. Now, the temptation is to put too much filling in it. But what's going to happen is if you put too much filling in it, remember you've got to roll this up. And that filling has to come out. And it goes all over the place. So be careful with the amount of filling. You want enough to moisten the sponge, which is exactly what we're doing now. But we don't want this, sort of tons of it left over the top. So make sure when you spread it, you sort of allow it to dissolve into the sponge, if that makes sense. But you want to go right to the edges, like that. So all the way, like this. But you can see that beautiful, well, you can't smell it, but I can smell it. The smell of this fresh fruit is amazing. But if you blend it, obviously, with a few blackberries in there, it'll be a bit darker, but anyway, it'll be fine. You can do this with jam, of course. We've had those amazing jams on the show already, but You can do this with jam, it's entirely up to you. But the same process applies. So make sure you get a nice, even bit of this. Any little bits you're unsure about, go over like that. So you want to make sure it's nice and like that, all into the corners. See, there's no bits of the sauce that's on there. It's nice and even, which is exactly what we want. Now, once we get to this stage, we can turn our attention to some cream. This is purely optional. You don't have to do this, but you can take a little bit of cream. So then take a palette knife, and you almost want to do this in 1 or 2 movements. What you don't want to be doing is little bits, otherwise you end up with sort of a raspberry ripple effect. And by doing this, you do it in, but quite confident, a bit like plasterers. You're plastering a wall, look. You go right over. Try not to do this backwards and forwards too many times, but you're putting a thin layer of cream on it, you see? Not too thick. Another one. And just this thin, thin, thin layer. Too much cream is just going to come straight out and pour out everywhere. So, a little bit over there. So once we get to that stage, you're then ready for the next bit, the rolling bit. The rolling bit's actually quite straightforward, to be honest with you. You got your damp cloth, you utilise the cloth, you're not actually touching the sponge, and you take this part of the sponge and you make sure this bit is tucked in. And then as you roll, make sure that bit is tucked in, tucked in, tucked in. Nice and tight, flip it over, and as you roll, 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 before you get to the end of the bench and it falls on the floor, pull it across, keep rolling, not tight, just allow it to go loose, and then it'll just drop. Like that. Straighten it up, lift off that. You've now got a Swiss roll. Easy. Then you can take your serrated knife, trim that up. Look at that, you've got your nice Swiss roll that end. You've got your nice Swiss roll that end. This is what we call trimmings for the cook to eat. And then you can take your Swiss roll, lift that onto there, and that's that one done. Then you can then garnish this. So you can leave it as it is if you want, but then we can then finish this off and garnish it. Now for that, I'm just going to use a little bit of this whipped cream. So with this cream, I've just added a touch of vanilla into this. You can use vanilla essence. I've got some vanilla bean paste here, which is like a vanilla beans mixed with sugar. And it almost creates this creme chantilly, which is perfect for this. It's exactly what we want. Because then I can finish this off and garnish this with a little bit of cream and some fresh fruit. So you take your piping bag. Nowadays, we've got to use plastic piping bags, but you take one of these. Now, there's no nozzle in here because we can create our own nozzle shape by doing this. So press the cream in. Tighten up the bag. And what you want to do is you create a nice sharp point. Think of it like a pen. So you take your knife and you cut really quite an acute angle straight the way through, like that. And then you put the pointed bit of the bag onto the sponge, and then you pipe sideways, backwards and forwards, towards you. So you start off with that, and you're doing that. And you see, you haven't used a piping nozzle, it's just the shape of the bag working for you. Take that off. You can then grab the leftover bits of fruit. I've actually used the small strawberries for the top. The large strawberries are blended into that puree. But we can take the strawberries and you can just pop them any old how on here. Garnish it up how you want. I've got some blueberries. Obviously, we've got blackberries, we've got strawberries. Some of these amazing raspberries. And also the great thing about, living in this country as well, it depends on where you live, where your fruit will be, how long they will last. The best raspberries, as I've tried to tell everybody, is from Scotland. They're absolutely amazing. And the weather there, as we all know, is changeable, to say the least. But they've got raspberries that last a lot longer than what we have down here, down south. And the quality of them are amazing. But you just take these raspberries, red currants, and you start to build this all up. You can, of course, just leave it as I had it before, but it just makes it look really nice. If you've got some lovely fruit like this, like I said, all in season, utilise it because it's amazing. And then you can grab some fresh mint. Just the tops I like to use because they look really nice. Obviously utilise the mint for everything else, but just the tops of the mint make it look really nice. So a few bits of this. You take the mint, dot it on the top, a few bits down there, one on there, one on there, and there you have it. My version of a classic Swiss roll. Easy as that. I love doing that. Now, if there's anything you'd like to learn about a little masterclass, then do get in touch with us if we can help out right here on the show. Time now for a quick break, but join me again in a couple of minutes when Chef Atul Kochhar will be serving a curry that will have your taste buds salivating. See you in a bit. Welcome back. Now I'll be laying on a final dish of deep-fried plaice for Rugby World Cup star Phil Vickery. That's coming up next. But first, I'm here with the master of spice, who's a walking, talking encyclopedia on the art of Indian cookery. Ooh. The man is an absolute legend. Atul Kochhar, everybody! Now, welcome back, Chief. I love your food. You know I have. We've known each other for decades. What are you going to be doing for us?
Well, I'm making a really humble, simple...
Well, I love you say simple, because, yeah, go on then.
Lamb curry.
Yeah, I try and replicate all this all the time, but this is what... You're going to cook it in a pot with a sealed lid.
Yes, so it's called... In India, we call it ahuna mutton. For some reason, the lamb is called mutton for some reason. I think
ahuna is the pot, or is that...
Ahuna is the pot, and everything is put into that, cooked on slow fire or in the oven for a good hour and a half to 2 hours.
What I love about this is all just all in. It's not frying in a pan first and all that kind of stuff. This is great. So you want me to get on and do the onions?
Yes, please. Slice the onions.
Meanwhile, you're going to tell us about the spices and everything else to go in this as well. So
I'll do that. So we got cardamom, cumin, coriander.
So this is you making a paste, first of all?
I'm making a powder, spice powder. So pretty much like a garam masala I want to make for this.
What have you got in here then?
So this is coriander, fennel, cumin, green cardamom, black cardamom, pepper. I got some cinnamon and mace, and this is the new one. I've never cooked on your show with this. White poppy seeds and some cashew nuts.
Okay. Well, where would this come from in India, then? Is this north, south? Where would this...
This is East India, James.
Right.
That's where I was born and bred. It's my home state, Bihar. I'm very proud of it. But really humble curry, to be honest. It's pretty much like farmer's curry.
One of your family's a baker rather than a chef, were they?
Baker, and also my dad had a catering business. That's right. That's right. So I've added all the spices here. We'll add cashew nuts as well. So this is to thicken the curry and also give the body to it. And this is my favorite bit. I love poppy seeds. It's quite seriously East Indian, to be honest.
That's quite a lot of poppy seeds, isn't it?
Yeah, so it thickens the sauce really, really well. And you toast it all. Not to forget cinnamon.
I think we've missed everything in there. You got peppercorns in there?
Yeah, I got everything here.
You got it?
Everything, and just a little bit of, not too much, but very gentle hint of nutmeg.
Right.
Okay.
That's that and that, yeah? So the toasting of it is the crucial bit.
Very crucial. And this is what gives the flavour to this curry. So it's all done. And a spice blender or a good kit like Thermomix.
It's just a... Same thing, isn't it? It's just a bigger version. That's
it. That's it. Leave it here. And
so the chilies, do you want them just cut in half? Is that what you want with these?
Yeah, so chilies in half.
Okay.
Perfect. You got my onions, chef?
Yep, the onions are over there.
Oh, okay. I need it here.
Or the garlic.
Okay, so in this we'll add...
I love about this, because normally when you're doing this, you would fry it all off. This, you just
everything goes together.
The pot that you're putting in, the cooking time is the key to it.
Absolutely.
So what is that?
Mustard oil.
Mustard oil, right?
And the chilies can also go in. We'll add... Green chilies were not enough, so we'll add 2 more red chilies. Right. So mix everything together, and then, in the end, we'll bring in lamb as well. So let's hope the lamb fits in. Yeah, it does.
So this would it be mutton? There's a big bowl there. Put it back into that one. It's bigger, chef.
Yeah, I think so.
So would this be that you'd use mutton with this? Would it?
Normally in India, because, you know, we use goat mostly, or sometimes old lamb, which we get from Kashmir.
Yeah.
So mutton would be the perfect dish for this, to be honest. Perfect meat, in my opinion. And it works incredibly well. And the spices, chef.
And I'm loving these. I'll just put them back in the pan so people can see. But that's your little spice mix there.
Absolutely. And, you know, this is a garam masala, which you can keep for good 3-4 weeks and then airtight.
So this is
container.
homemade garam masala?
Homemade garam masala.
So all those spices you got in there, anybody who wants to make your own garam masala, this is it?
You could make it.
Fantastic. Well, you've already made me it. This is going in my fridge. No, my cupboard. That's
Cupboard,
That's going... I'm staying that. I'm keeping that one. Right.
And let's not forget that. That also goes in.
Like that?
At the moment, yeah. And then, because we had 2 pots and we broke 1 pot, so I'm using this one.
Well, we didn't broke one. We knew Atul was coming on the show. I ordered 2. One from one company, one from another, and the delivery driver threw it over the
Gate.
The gate. So now we've got 1 pot.
So moral of the story, don't have very big gates.
Yeah, just get the buzzer. But there you go. But this
goes in.
When you've got the restaurant, you got it made. Is this is what you still do?
I love doing this,
So you
James.
still do this?
I still absolutely love this. So
Because a lot of people think about the Michelin, you've got to think you refine everything and refine it. You're still doing this sort of stuff.
So this recipe is on my menu at Kanishka at the moment.
Love it.
And I love doing this, and I'm the one who always puts this pot on. I absolutely love it.
So this is the dish that, when you order it, you're the guy cooking it.
Most of the time.
Good.
Most of the time.
So tell me about this dough then. This is the key to it. What?
So a little bit of stock as well, sorry.
Okay.
Should have done that. Okay, so this dough is just a soft dough, James. And we just spread it out. Can I ask you to do that for me?
Yeah.
And then seal the pot.
Are you covering it all over, or are you just going around the edge?
On the edge, sorry, not all over, on the edge, so that it holds the steam inside.
Okay.
And makes the lid really tight.
So you're doing a sausage sort of shape. With
Absolutely, chef.
it. Yeah. That kind of thing. And then go in. Let you seal it from there. Looks as if we've done this before. Look at that.
There we go. And the lid goes on, and we just roll it over the lid a bit.
I love this. So traditionally, this would be cooked on what? On the stove or what?
Yeah, normally
over a fire. Or?
Generally over wood fire.
Yeah.
The houses generally old houses used to have wood-fired stoves, and they would just put it on that, let it smolder on the smoldering fire, and let it cook slowly for good 2-3 hours. And all the fatty cuts can also go in there.
There you go. So how long do you cook that for now?
About 90 minutes, I would say.
Okay. And then we end up the one that didn't that made it over the gate.
Yes.
Which we got in there, because the way you finish this off, I find this is amazing. This little charcoal thing as well. So
Here we go. Okay. Can I ask you to cut that slot for me? Meanwhile, I do the thing.
Absolutely. So while you're doing, tell us what you're doing over here then. Well,
this curry is smoked. So what we do is, after cooking this, it's that hard, is it?
Yes, it is a bit. So you just cut round it.
Perfect. Yeah, that's it. That's the best way to do it.
I'm loving this.
Coming through.
Getting there. There you go.
Beautiful.
Wow, look at that.
Beautiful.
Is this where does this idea come from? Because I've never seen this before.
What, this one? James, this is age-old thing there in India. So, you know.
So that's charcoal.
Charcoal, live charcoal, and
live charcoal, as in hot charcoal.
Hot charcoal.
Right.
And I'm going to put that and put that on top. Hold it in.
I can see people doing this. I'm going to do this. Come dine with me and set fire to their house. This is. But so you just put charcoal in there. The bottom. What? This is smoking the meat.
It's just smoking the meat. There you go.
I am loving this. Is that? That's the classic way to finish it, is it?
It's classic way to finish it. How can I kill this? Can I put something?
That's all right. I'll just put some water in it. There you go. There you go, done.
Perfect.
Right. So that's that. That only wants sort of 30 seconds in there. That's all it needs.
That's all it needs. You don't need more than that because it'll just otherwise make it too smoky, and you don't want that.
Right.
Lots of chopped coriander goes in.
So what are you up to next? Because whenever I see you've got something in the pipeline, you've got restaurants and what are you doing next? You got Beaconsfield now, are you? What are you? You've got that.
So I have restaurants in Bucks, but I also got involved 2 years ago in a restaurant in Delhi,
right,
called Saga, and I absolutely love that because it allows me to go back to India often and curate the menu for that restaurant.
Yeah.
But more importantly, James, right now actually I'm focusing on Kanishka mostly, to be honest. And
so that's
it's
just
a buzz.
boiled rice. That's
boiled rice. Can I have the other spoon?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do.
There you go.
Perfecto, chef. Thank you.
Or you can have that one.
Yeah, that's fine. That looks more classic.
Yeah. And it's amazing how much liquor you put a little bit of stuff, but how much liquor comes out of the meat as well.
Its own juices. Its own juices, James.
This is a revelation. It's like
it's a proper curry.
It is a proper curry.
Well, here you go, my friend.
Well, that looks amazing. We'll put it next to the pot as well there. So give us the name of this amazing dish. What is this called?
Well, I call it ahuna gosht, but it's smoked lamb curry.
I told you he was a genius. Atul, everybody. We've got to try this together, haven't we?
Definitely,
This is. And I suppose if you didn't want to use lamb, you could use beef.
You could use beef, absolutely. Yeah. You could use
chicken,
venison as well. See if the garlic is cooked. What do you think?
Do you know what, though? You excite me and depress me at the same time.
Oh, God.
Because
Sorry.
I get excited about you coming on and depressing that I'm not going to taste anything like this until you come back on again. Atul, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
It's brilliant. Now we've got time for one more final recipe this morning, so join us again in a couple of minutes where we're serving a stunning plate of deep-fried plaice. You going to stick around for that?
Would be rude not to, chef.
And I'll be cooking it for Phil Vickery as well. See you after the break. Welcome back to the final part of the show. I'm back in the kitchen with, of course, Atul and, of course, England rugby legend, Phil Vickery! Now, there's no point teaching you how to fillet a fish, but one of the things that we talked about, well, researchers talked about while you were fixing the tractor, which you talked about earlier, was how to fillet a fish.
Yeah, I'm not very good at filleting fish. I love fish, I love eating it.
I know you're a big lover of Cornwall. This is where this fish comes from. But you take your knife and you cut all the way down the centre to that line. Now, if you take long cuts, when you're doing this, when you start cutting, you cut, and the knife is flush to the bone now. And if you take long cuts as you're doing this, each cut that you make is long. And as you're doing this, you're prising each little bit of the fish over, like that. Each time you're doing it, long cuts as you go. And eventually you'll get to a point where you'll go through that bit there, and the fillet. Now, I'm slow doing this. When you watch proper pros doing it, they do it in seconds, but there you have your nice...
Beautiful.
Bit of fillet, like that. And then you can do the other side, which this one's slightly different because it's slightly shorter because they remove they cut these little bit of the guts out in bits and pieces when they're at sea. So what you do is you take this knife and you, again, try and... Every cut that you make is sort of... It's difficult because you think you're going to do this, and when you're doing like this, it rips the flesh.
So just long.
Yeah,
long.
when you start, don't stop. So while you're doing it, so you can see almost 3 cuts, and I've taken the whole thing off, like that. Now, depending on the season, depends on the roe that you get as well, so you can trim this off. So a lot of the time, you can just take your knife underneath this, you lift it off with your fingers like that, take that off. And then what you can do is then take your fish like that and trim off this bit. So, meanwhile, I don't know how you get from place to talking about what you're up to, but we talked so much about your career earlier on. I've got to mention this. We've got to mention this very special night, because this night, we did mention the date. The date is it's imprinted on your brain as well. Tell us about this very special night where all of the squad are coming back together for the first time?
Well, on the 22nd of November, which is exactly 20 years from winning Rugby World Cup in '03, we are all getting back together at the Apollo. We're on stage, there'll be stories, there'll be lots of fun stories, there'll be real... It's just going to be really, really interesting for me personally, because we've never all got back together again. And for us all to be together on that night, I think it's going to be a really...
I didn't ask you, there was... When you were watching it, I don't know whether you remember watching it.
I remember watching it.
But when you were watching it, was there a moment where you thought, we're going to win this?
It's funny, when you're in it, I don't think you really think about it too much, because if you thought about what you did, you'd probably be too scared to do it, or you'd be too worried. And people will often ask me about that evening, what do I remember about the game? Obviously, Johnny's drop goal. I'll tell you what I remember more than anything, and was blown away, and it really, like now, it just makes me feel a bit giddy, was when you ran out the tunnel, the Webb Ellis Trophy was on our right-hand side, we ran out to the left. And the thing which just shocked me, and I felt emotional at the time, was just seeing the red and white of St George's flag.
Wow.
And I remember thinking to myself, we're on the other side of the world, and it's like we're in a home stadium. The support was just phenomenal.
But there is no support like rugby fan support. I don't think the support probably similar to sort of India cricket.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe I think because do you know what I mean? When you go
but even on Johnny's drop goal, when he dropped the goal, he's got that. It seems like forever. Is it going to go over?
It just seemed like it was going forever.
Everyone knew it was going over because the fans behind the post went up about 5 seconds before it actually went over, because they could see
where it was going.
They could see where it was going. And then you ask yourself the question, is it over, isn't it over?
Yeah.
And then the really interesting bit, people think the game finished then. It didn't, it restarted.
So when you finish a career like yours, and you ended at Wasps, and your injuries and stuff like that, I mean, it's common knowledge, your neck, your back, and it takes such a toll of you. It's now years later, physically fit. How do you keep that? Is that a mental thing when you finish? You go, I
think you go on a little bit of a roller coaster when you finish, and you don't really know what's going on, and probably still don't know these years later what's going on. But all I know physically, because of my operations, I've got false disc in my neck. I've had three interventions in my neck, and I've actually got a titanium disc in here. I've had 3 lower back operations, right shoulder, left side facial reconstruction. All I know is I've got to look after myself. And I said actually a couple of years ago that 20 years this year I wanted to be in the best shape that I've ever been in my life. So a little bit of a challenge for me, a little bit of a focus, but also for me physically, but I also train for my brain. But being honest with you, James, I train to eat and drink too. I train to eat good foods. And,
well, we were mentioning food off camera as well. You said you're not a great fan of these fad diets, and no, I don't think there's any sportsman that is really. They just eat proper food.
It's not about trying to find miraculous magic pills and potions. Just eat good food, good clean foods regularly. Do some exercise, common sense.
When you retired, was there a guilty pleasure you just went and indulged in?
I think you probably just keep eating the same amount as what you did when you were doing all the training. That's about the truth of it.
But you've done that since you were 19. So, but there must have. I mean, physically, it must. You can't just switch off, I'm assuming, when you've done that for that amount of time.
It is hard. I mean, as well, the dark side of our sport. We talk now about mental health and well-being. I know it's very prevalent as well, particularly in the cricket world. But in all sports, it is really difficult, because the buy-in of a rugby player is, you're all in, and it's the whole bit around it. And I train as much for my brain and for myself, and to feel good, and to look good, and to... it's not just about the physical because of the aches and pains. It's about the whole bit of it, and it focuses my mind.
It's what I find amazing about rugby players, and we've had a lot of rugby players on the show as well, because I'm a big fan, as you know, of rugby, is that the attitude that you have after the game, but also after you retire. You've managed to build up successful businesses and keep but your mental attitude is...
James, no one ever says... I grew up down a farm lane 1.5 miles long in a village called Kilcampton in North Cornwall, where nothing happens. If I listened to everyone who told me that you could do nothing, you'd never go anywhere or do anything. Yeah. You can achieve and do things, so you've got to be prepared to fail. And I've failed at lots of things. And I think if you put yourself out there... Yes, I was lucky. Yeah, but you've got to put yourself in a position to be lucky. get up and get after it and believe in yourself.
I
and
think
there are
all
people
three of
like
us had
that.
the same experience.
Yeah,
I
you know,
love that. I love what you just said.
Yeah.
You've got to be
You
prepared
have
to
more
fail.
failures than success, to be honest. And people just remember your success, not the failures.
And that's the thing, even with you guys. I mean, you're proper legendary chefs. I'm a cook and I love cooking. And one of my frustrations is someone says to me, I can't cook. You can cook, but people's biggest barrier, I believe, is they're worried about failing.
Yeah.
And you've got to get it wrong.
have to try it.
I'm a big sourdough fan, so I baked my own sourdoughs and I failed and it all went miserably wrong. And I've got my mother now, who's, 8 years old. And I met a guy who's, I know he's a friend of the show here.
If you're tuning in, that's bread, by the way. It's not his mother's actually 8 years old. Just so you, just before we get letters.
But I connected with a baker called Richard Burtonette. I know Richard's been on, who's a legend.
He's amazing.
Richard is a legend.
And it just was simple, get on with it. Went to see him, he helped me out and just made you believe you can do it and get on with it.
Believe in what you do. Hopefully you can get to, look, we've got our deep-fried fish,
And it's delicious.
which is in this light, super light batter, like that.
That looks
and then
amazing.
You've got a little wedge of lemon. Take that, you've got a little wedge of that on the side, little Plusha watercress. And there we have it. So my crispy fried fresh place, Cornish place, with beautiful, last of the season, garden peas. Done. It is that. Right, there we go. Bon appetit.
Thank you.
It's not fish and chips, it's not mushy peas either, but it's crispy fried fish and that kind of stuff, but I'll have mine off the tray. That's all right.
You got the best bit.
I've got, yeah, well, exactly. But that, when you taste, I mean, you know fish, we've been down in Cornwall as well, but look at the colour of that.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Just look at that.
And it's funny, you didn't salt the fish first and you salted
No,
after
I don't
cooking.
think you just salt it afterwards, and it's in the fryer, nice hot fryer, but
Emotion's nice. It comes through well, so it's
Really beautiful.
lovely, isn't
the
it?
lemon as well.
So, James, we've just been talking. If you ever want to open a fish and chip shop, we'll finance it.
Oh, well, you finance it, good. Where are they going? Thanks very much. But the trouble is, I'll be stuck behind the fryer, you see. That's the thing. Exactly, but it's really, the batter is fantastic as well. Before you go, you've got a new couple of programmes out,
Yes, we
a
have.
two-part series out on ITV as well. 27th, 28th
Yes.
of September, it
It's,
goes out.
It's the Grand Slammers. The few of us old Rugby World Cup boys have actually gone back in, well, we've gone back into a prison to teach and coach some non-rugby playing guys and built a team. We've played a couple of matches.
I love it. I would say you've gone back into prison. So.
Yeah, I know.
But that's it. That's all we've got time for today. It's going to be a great show as well. And best of luck with the one-off show as well. That's definitely going to be a winner. I'm definitely coming to that one. Thanks to all my guests, Sarah Churchill, Tony Singh, Tom Kerridge, Atul Kochhar, and of course the brilliant Phil Vickery. We'll see you back here at the same time next Saturday morning. We'll be joined by best-selling classical singer Carly Powley and my old mates from Ready Steady Cook. Yes, Mr. Paul Rankin and Leslie Waters will be here. Until then, take care, stay safe. Thanks for watching, everybody. Enjoy the rugby this afternoon. Enjoy the fish as well.